Welcome to Poetry with Shing, where we uncover the beauty behind poetry. In today's episode, we'll be looking at We Are Not Responsible by Harryette Mullen and Immigrant Blues by Liang Li. The two poems are on the screen right here, and the question that we'll be exploring today is how do the poets differ in their attitudes towards migration? So, in this case, the common theme that unites both poems would be migration, and how we would be dissecting these two poems together in a comparative analysis today would be to see how an essay addressing the question that is written on the screen right here could be written. So let's begin. Poem A, which is Immigrant Blues by Liang Li, highlights the hardships faced by migrants as they are culturally assimilating on foreign land and also reveals the disorientation, loss, and lack of belonging within the country. It takes on a troubled and melancholic tone of migrants, revealing the helpless plight of migrants on foreign soil. On the other hand, poem B, We Are Not Responsible by Harryette Mullen, is strikingly opposite in portraying an indifferent attitude towards migrants, even to the extent of not acknowledging them. Thus, Mullen presents the perspective of locals being unwelcome towards foreign migrants. So how do these two poems try and show their differing messages through the poem? Firstly, both poets employ repetition to varying effects. In poem A, the repetition of "it's called", which the poet uses to summarize the imagery presented in the preceding lines, are striking in showing that the plight of migrants as being displaced people without a sense of identity and belonging extends beyond migrants, but is also representative of migrants of love and time. So this part on "it's an old story", it's called, it's an ancient story, it's called, all these are repetitions. So these repetitions are used to show how migrants are being displaced and they have a lack of identity. And not only that, they might also be migrants of love and time, meaning that they might be people who are left behind due to the passage of time, or even left behind in love pursuits. So let me write that down. This repetition being a migrant means that one is not where one belongs, but the meaning is more than just that, as can be seen in how the speaker asks, "Am I inside you?" once lying between a woman's legs. So that is here. Adjust the thickness of the pen. Alright, so the question "Am I inside you?" takes on a double meaning. The first being whether the soul of that of a migrant trying to assimilate into a foreign country's culture is within the migrant's body, as migration is a series of struggles to adapt to the new environment, and for the locals on that foreign land to adapt to your presence. The second meaning is that of physical love, and a question asking whether both of them are indeed making love to each other. Hence, we see the physical and emotional side of migration, where one's body is not in its homeland, and also of the conflicting emotions of migrants struggling to find their place in society. The notion of humans migrating and traveling through the passage of time is also brought out, as can be seen from the repetition of time indicators, including previous century, yesterday morning, which is yesterday evening, yesterday morning is up here. So there's also an idea of a migration through time. And I'm gonna write down what I wrote just now, what I said just now about this part, where migration carries both a physical and emotional aspect. So while these time indicators, going back to our time indicators here, signal that The exclusion, ostracism, and suffering plight of migrants have been happening for a very long time, much to the indifference of locals in that land. It also shows that it is inevitable for humans to be at the mercy of time and hence have to experience time's passing as a testament of their mortality. On the other hand, in poem B, repetition is used to highlight the disdain locals have towards migrants. Through the use of the repetition of pronouns we and you, there is a repeated emphasis on the clear lines of distinction drawn between locals, denoted by we, and migrants, denoted by you, where migrants are stereotyped and excluded from the rest of society. So there's a me versus you distinction here. So that could point to an idea of exclusion, as I mentioned just now. Additionally, stereotypes can be seen in the vivid imagery of poem B. The poem mentions concealed wallet and gang colors. So our concealed wallet is here, gang color is here, with both highly stereotypical of African Americans, as the former refers to hidden guns that Native Americans are often accused of carrying in the context of American society, and the latter refers to the black skin color often associated with African Americans joining a gang to instigate conflict and cause chaos and disruption within the American society. So these stereotypes of migrants are mentioned in the poem to emphasize migrants are utterly at the mercy of locals and are often mistreated because of these derogatory labels placed upon them. As such, it is ironic that migrants often leave their home country in seek of safer and secure lands, yet their migration journey simply lands them in the hands of another group of people that will treat them poorly. So after we've talked about the imagery in poem B, we're going on to examine how poem A also contains vivid imagery. However, instead of bringing out the exclusion of migrants and the harmful stereotypes placed on them, the imagery in poem A calls for the notion of mutual acceptance of migrants and locals living within the country, as well as the hope for the complementation of the body and soul, and the tangible and intangible. Poem A contains the lines at peace with the bodies, at peace with the bodies. Let me find that line. At peace with the body's finitude over here, and at peace with the soul's disregard of space and time. So that highlights one's calm acceptance of the mortality of the physical body, and at the same time embracing a notion completely opposite to the lack of time bodies have, which is the infinite amount of time and space a soul is entitled to. The opposition and contrast serve as a reflection of the present oppositions between migrants, who are seen as outliers and outcasts of society, and locals who have a sense of entitlement to living in their own homeland. Hence, poem A is pushing for the acceptance of migrants, unlike in poem B, which highlights the exclusion of migrants from society with a stripping of their basic human rights. Both poems also use imagery to highlight the lack of language as a mode of expression of the feelings of migration. In poem A, the speaker attempts to learn the language of his migrant land, yet he is not welcome as a member of that society. The idea of inside and outside, as migrants attempt to learn the native language of their new homeland to assimilate to the country's culture, will never discount the true identity of the migrant that can be found within the person, where his loyalties lie. So, learning a second tongue. And what does he know about inside and outside? So it's an idea about how he's trying to reconcile with his inner identity while assimilating to the new country's culture or language. Hence, the poet is making a statement that language will never bridge the gap between migrants and locals because fundamentally they come from different lands, and it is not through assimilation that we can embrace one another, but through mutually accepting our differences and moving on peacefully from there. In addition, no language can express the migrants' feelings of homesickness and loss amidst the foreign land, as conveyed through the notion of singing in I want to sing but I don't know any songs. Over here. Here, singing is a form of expression and declaration of emotion. Yet, the inability to find a suitable song to express feelings of migration shows that no language can express the migration experience, and thus these feelings are left bottled up within, with nobody to understand them. So they're unable to express themselves. Contrary to poem A, poem B suppresses the migrant's yearn to express their emotions. This is suggested through the imagery of extinguishing all smoldering resentments. So that would be over here. This is suggested through the imagery of, once again, extinguishing all smoldering resentments, as migrants are forced to swallow all their unhappiness and their emotions are not validated, with the suppression rendering them unable to have an avenue to express their emotions. Similar to poem A, both poems portray migrants as silent sufferers at the hands of who would have been their saviors, like authorities of the foreign land. So, to conclude, the timeless nature of aversion has followed migration over the past centuries. And beyond migration as we know it, humans are constantly experiencing other forms of migration, such as migrating through time, and similar to actual physical migration, these migrations, universal to all humans, also involve changes that we have to constantly adapt to. Perhaps the disdain in poem B is not the true feelings of Mullen, but rather a satirical representation of authorities all over the world that do not respect migrants as equals. Ultimately, migration is challenging as one is forced to come to terms with pressing questions, such as our culture, religion, identity, and fundamentally, what makes us us. Alright, that marks the end of our poetry discussion for this episode. Thank you for tuning in and look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Goodbye.